All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of my channel. Happy to have everybody here. Today, I wanted to do the long form book review for The Haunted Mask. This episode is going to have comparing, contrasting the episode and the book. I wanted to also talk a little bit about Carly Beth as a character. I also wanted to talk a little bit about her side characters, the things that kind of prop her up as the main character. We got a few in there, but also that's kind of what I look for when doing these books, and give a little bit about my voiceover experience about this book, reading it, doing the voiceover for it, connecting with this book. Luckily, it's not too long. It's 29 chapters, but it's about, I don't know, 121 pages, something like that. Yeah, 121, so it wasn't too bad reading this book. First, I want to talk a little bit about Carly Beth and her as a character in this book. So a lot of what she does in this book is low-key revenge-driven. She is scared at the beginning, and she wants to be able to get back at Chuck and Steve. Those are the people that are scaring her the most. Carly Beth herself is naturally a scared person. There's circumstances, situations where everything is a bit heightened for her. So that's why she tends to get scared a lot. There's a few situations and scenarios that occur where you're really getting to see who this character is, because it props her up when she gets the mask that she's out to scare Chuck and Steve. She's really out to prove them, to prove herself, really, at the end of the day, that she's not a scaredy cat, and this is the perfect thing for her to do, is to get this mask, Quite scared at the beginning, and then as the mask kind of occurs, her getting the mask, you almost have to look at it as her resorting to getting this mask. So she's resorting to be this person at the end of the day to get what she wants, the ultimate goal, which is to scare Chuck and Steve. That's pretty much her. That's the thing that she wants to do the most. That's her main objective in this book. The side characters, you see, as I explained, they're really there as her main motivation to help prop herself forward. You kind of have to look at Carly Beth in sort of three waves: the scared character, who she is as the mask, and then what she has to do to get off the mask. And low at the very end is her developed overall, right? So at the beginning, very scared, quite afraid at a lot of things, almost anything, Towards the middle, once the mask kind of happens, you see that shift in her character, the anger that kind of comes out. She lets herself. It kind of reminds me of, I don't want to compare it too much like this, but Majin Vegeta, right? Allows himself to get corrupted by Babidi, I think. Allows himself to get corrupted, so this way he can go to Super Saiyan 2, because his main motivation is to fight and beat Goku. In this case, Carly Beth has the motivation of, I got to do what I need to do to scare these people at the end of the day, right? So the mask alters her. She goes essentially within an altered state, right? And then towards the end, when she realizes that I got to get this damn thing off me, because now I'm starting to go crazy. I'm choking my friend, Sabrina gets choked out. She's scaring kids everywhere. Unimpressed lady in a wheelchair, you know what I'm saying? So that happens, and then at the end, her and the store owner connect, and she's got to get this mask off, and she eventually winds up getting the mask off. So there's motivation for her to succeed in life, and we see throughout the book that she does wind up succeeding. There's succession in scaring Chuck and Steve, success in stopping from being scared, and then success in taking off the mask. So she moves herself in a position where she wants to put herself in the best position possible, right? Talk a little bit about side characters now. We have Sabrina, her mom, her brother Noah, the store owner, and Chuck and Steve, right? So the mom and Noah are family. Those are the people that live with her. Her mom loves her because that winds up coming at the end with that symbol of love thing, with the plaster of Paris. That's what helps saves her, Noah is kind of the annoying brother, and in the 90s, annoying little blonde brother. This is exactly kind of what society was telling us was what was happening. You know what I'm saying? Also filmed in Canada too. This whole series is filmed in Canada. I'm pretty sure about that. They're giving you this standard '90s family, little blonde brother who winds up being a cockroach for Halloween. He's really there to antagonize her, and at the very end, you'll see in the book that he winds up also kind of falling into the trap of the mask. So Sabrina is her friend. She's the one that takes a lot of the secondary role in this because she explains a lot. She connects a lot with her in the book, and that's her friend. That's her homie. They go to her house. They get the candy. So a lot of this, she has a good side character for her and her friend. Chuck and Steve, they're one of the biggest issues. The second biggest issue, the main objective, potentially in this book, is to scare them. So they're there to serve as these are the two dudes who are bothering her, and she's got to get at them. But they're pretty funny, especially with the worms situation, where they put that in her sandwich. I thought that was pretty funny. The store owner is also, that's where she goes to see the masks and get her mask. And he eventually, at the very end, they connect and we get a little bit of on who that character is. He makes the masks. That's something that they're called the Unloved. He wants to build a future with these masks, but they're real faces. How he got the real faces, I don't know. It's a bit creepy for me. But the store owner, he serves as the shop owner, and the obstacle that comes in her way with her in the mask, once she eventually gets the mask, that's now she has to come back and go to him and say, listen, how do you get this fucking thing off me? Because I don't know how. And he essentially exposition dumps on her. This is how you get the mask. It's a symbol of love. That's how you get this thing off. So I really like the side characters and how they relate to her. I think they all work quite well, especially for the episode, which is the first two episodes of the Goosebumps original series, right? But also this is book 11. So we're 10 already. This is the 11th book. We're 10 books into Goosebumps, So people would have already understand how the premise of most of these books work with your fake outs and whatnot, right? But these are the first two episodes, so they have to be strong. It's a two-parter. But in the book, it's a little bit different because these characters are what is around her to move her character forward. I want to talk a little bit about the episode, compare and contrast. I wrote a few notes, actually. So first thing I want to note is the beginning is quite different. They're in the pumpkin patch. They're looking for pumpkins, whereas in the beginning of this book, Carly Beth is hanging out, and we get a little bit more of who she is overall in the episode, but it's fleshed out a bit more in the first couple of chapters within the book, because in the beginning it's a little bit different. In the book, it's also a little bit different. In the episode, I noticed that she rips up the duck costume, which I don't believe she does in the book. So I found that pretty interesting. I also noticed in the episode when she gets the mask, she almost steal buys it, where she forcefully takes it from the guy. Here's $30. She kind of throws it at him. Whereas in the book, it's the owner kind of hesitantly lets her purchase it, to the point where he even says, would you like a bag for this, So the transaction is just a bit more hesitant in the book than it is in the episode. There's also, as she's getting the mask, the owner in the episode is kind of lusty for the revenge. He goes, oh, a revenge. I like this, essentially, which I didn't feel like that shop owner. He was very hesitant in this book, and he didn't really want to sell her the mask, but maybe low-key he wanted to see how it would work, wanted to see how that mask would work, if you will. Whereas in the episode, it's like, no, please, I don't want you to do this. But I knew you'd come back at the end, you know what I'm saying? Also in this book, there's a scene where Carly Beth, when they are trick-or-treating, when she is trick-or-treating outside, that they go visit this elderly lady in a wheelchair, and this dude's house with tattered blue sweater, and this old lady in a wheelchair. They go to visit her. That doesn't happen in the episode. She also buries the mask in a cemetery in the episode, whereas in the book, she kind of loses it in a shrub because she has to eventually go back and she has to look for the mask. She's frantically looking for the mask in the book because that's the symbol of love, she finds out at the end. And in the episode, she buries it at the cemetery and then has to run back and get it, you know? I also noticed towards the end when the masks eventually do wind up coming alive, right? That they're chasing after her. They chase after her in the cemetery and they kind of cry towards the end, whereas in the book, they kind of surround her and they're laughing at her. And she shows them the symbol of love, which is the plaster of Pear's head. And they laugh and then all kind of disperse away. Whereas in the book, they see the plaster of Pear's head and they almost like, you know, when they see the mask. So I found that pretty interesting and different as well. Towards the end of the book, the mom is a bit more stern with her in the book, where when Carly Beth eventually comes home, she takes the mask off. She's telling her, well, where the hell have you been? And Carly Beth says, oh, I've had a pretty long, hard day, you know? And the mom goes, all right, well, I'll wait. You could tell me about it because I was supposed to expect you an hour ago, right? Whereas in the episode, it's more of I was worried about you. And that's pretty much about it, you know? So a little less fleshed out in the episode towards the end, because at that point, you only have about 3 minutes left. So you have to, you know, tighten that up, you know? And lastly, the big difference is Noah puts on the mask in the book and Carly Beth doesn't really know. And he comes out and he says, how do I look in your mask? That's how the book ends. Whereas in the episode, Carly Beth says, oh, by the way, Noah, don't put that mask on. And he puts it on. He goes, oh, I'm not. And he comes out and he goes trick or treat. So that was two of the biggest differences, especially at the very, very end. So a little bit different, but the episode does do a very good job at highlighting the main points of the book, The Haunted Mask. I thought it did a wonderful job. So, and I wasn't upset about it. You know what I'm saying? Lastly, what I wanted to do is just give you a little bit about my experience doing the voiceover. I understood Carly Beth's character. I think she, at the end of the day, is an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old girl who is trying to find her place, maybe potentially going through puberty at this point, you know, so you have to factor in those sort of things. You know, it's school life where society is kind of dictating for you. And in her case, she's scared a lot, you know, and she really does want to get over this fear. At the end of the day, that's what she's trying to do, get over a fear. And there's people antagonizing her and exacerbating her emotions and her fear. And she finds out at the end that really true love prevails because it's her mother's love that gives her that opportunity to get herself out of a permanent, almost permanent situation with the mask just molding and just becoming you essentially, you know? And I noticed in the episode, she almost, the mask becomes her new identity and she's losing Carly Beth. And in the book there's a sense of duality there. She becomes the mask. She becomes the haunted mask. She becomes this new person and has to kind of slip back, do her best to go. Towards the end, she kind of comes back. So it almost like a situation where it's hard for her to overcome, and she has no choice but to overcome or else risk doom. I also noticed that, you know, in the episode and the book, a little bit different how I saw Carly Beth when she's in the mask. Once she's in the mask, it's almost like she has changed. Slowly kind of creeping into it, she gets to a point where she's stuck in that mask, and that is her. And then she's kind of slowly starting to trickle out of it. And it's her kind of coming out, Carly Beth, and then her as Carly Beth in the mask, you know? So I towards the end, I kind of tried to do my best to add just little touches of who Carly Beth was while still maintaining most of the mask and what it does. Overall, I had a really good time reading this book. I had a really wonderful time connecting with it. It was fun. One of the best Goosebumps books from the original 62 that I think I've read. I had a wonderful time. It was a blast doing the voiceover. I hope everybody enjoys it. And yeah, you know, we fucking did that.